What's up, guys? Zaid here from Tournament City Games. We just had our locals, and here's our other undefeated duelists. 3-0-1 they both went. And you want to introduce yourself before you show us the deck?
My name is Austin. I've been playing for about 3 years now. Kind of just picked up this deck, and I think it's just one of the best combo / mid-range decks in the modern format currently. So what we have here is Golgari Yawgmoth. Kind of simple package. You start out with your typical mana dorks. 3 Birds of Paradise, 4 Ignoble Hierarch, and then 4 Waller Roots. So obviously the ratio here is pretty similar across all Yawgmoth decks. There has been lists floating around that run either 4 and 3 or 4 and 3. So it kind of just varies from time to time on what you want to run.
What makes these two superior to that one to you?
For me, so the Ignoble Hierarch has an Exalted ability, which allows you to pump a single attacker if you attack with just a singleton creature. It allows it to be a +1/+0, which can sometimes get you across the finish line a little bit faster. Waller Roots is just, it has a 0.5 power toughness, which can be huge against the aggro decks here in Modern. The ability to put a -0, -1 counter and at instant speed is kind of a huge deal, because with cards like my next card here, Endurance, being able to just cast it on your opponent's turn whenever pretty much for little to no cost using the Waller Roots. The Endurance is probably one of the most powerful cards in the deck. Being a green creature with flash, it takes care of your opponent's graveyards, which in Modern is a huge, pretty much third resource at this point. I actually think Endurance might be probably the second or third highest power card in this deck.
Why do you only play 2 then?
I have 2 more on my sideboard. I think 2 is the perfect number for the main board. It interacts well with the combo portion, along, like I said, with dealing with a problematic graveyard. Things like Living End, Jund Creativity. Sometimes it can take care of creatures like Dragon Rage Channeler, things like that. So after Endurance, we have the combo, which I will lay out here. So there's the namesake card, Yawgmoth. And here are the other cards, Yawgmoth and Strangleroot. So the way the combo works for players that are a little inexperienced. So Yawgmoth, Thran Physician, says, pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature, and draw a card. So you start with one of these 2 cards. Yawgmoth and Strangleroot both have Undying. So whenever the creature dies, if it has no +1/+1 counters on it, you return it to the battlefield under the owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. So for example, if this Yawgmoth has a +1/+1 counter on it, you can sacrifice the Strangleroot. It will go to the graveyard. You'll remove the 1/1 counter here. Strangleroot will come back with a +1/+1 counter. And you can do this until you have 2 life. And then that's when one of these 2 cards comes into play, which is Blood Artist and Innkeeper. So Innkeeper and Blood Artist work. So this is how the combo finalizes. So with Innkeeper, you can either draw your whole deck, because whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life, which negates the pay 1 life of Yawgmoth. Same thing goes with Blood Artist. However, Blood Artist instantly ends the game because it says target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life.
So this, you basically, once you have that set up, you can kill them that turn.
Correct.
And you also could draw out your deck if you wanted to, because you're gaining the life and that lets you draw too.
Correct. Yep.
That's kind of insane. What the heck?
It is.
So the other thing you see a lot with these decks is usually like a copy of Hepatra. Is there a reason that you're not playing the Hepatra? Oh, wait.
Funny you say that.
He had it hidden. He just had it hidden.
Baited the question.
I did bait the question. So Hepatra, with any other Undying creature, can also go on infinite. However, Hepatra also with a Yawgmoth on the battlefield basically, as long as you have any other creature, basically just prevents your opponent from playing creatures as long as you have life. So if you have a Prosperous Innkeeper out with a Hapatra and a Yawgmoth, as long as you have any other creature, it's going to be a bad day for the opponent because they cannot play any creatures going forward.
If these are required for your combo, why are they only 1/ofs? Can you tutor them?
Yes, so using cards that I'll show here in a minute, using things like Eldritch Evolution and Court of Calling, you can tutor up those cards, which is why they're a 1/of. You really don't want to draw them.
Yeah, they don't contribute to like building a board or breaking a board. They just facilitate the combo.
Correct. Yep. And then I played one creature tonight that I kind of thought was test-worthy.
Show them the spice.
And it is an Ancient Imperiosaur that has Convoke, Trample, Ward 2. Ancient Imperiosaur enters the battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters on it for each creature that convoked it. At one point tonight, this card was a 20/20, and it instantly ended the game. I was very impressed with it tonight. I think it's only good as a 1/of, just because you don't want to dilute the combo. However, it in itself is basically a combo. So I think having a 1/of, just top decking it, is kind of the go-to. I don't think I want to run any more than just one. So then you get into the Planeswalkers / creatures of the deck. This is kind of an addition. So it's Grist the Hunger Tithe. So it's a legendary Planeswalker, but as long as it's anywhere else, not on the battlefield, it is a creature. So this can be useful using cards like Court of Calling, which can tutor creatures, or Eldritch Evolution, which can also tutor the Grist if need be, along with any other of your combo pieces. So I think Grist is probably one of the most powerful cards in this deck.
So as long as it's not on the battlefield, it's a 1/1. Is that just means if it's anywhere but on the field? So if it's in grave, if it's in deck, if it's exiled, it's always considered that. But then once it's on the field, it is itself.
Correct.
That's cool, which is what lets these search it.
Yes. So as long as it's not on the battlefield, it's considered a creature. So kids, if you're watching this, don't try to spell Pierce Grist because it does not work. But I cut a Eldritch Evolution this morning for the Ancient Imperiosaur. Like I said, don't want to dilute the combo too much. However, I think it was the correct choice. And then, as Dale previously said in the other deck tech, we will go to the land base, which is 2 Blooming Marsh, just as fast lands, 2 Beseju. This one's kind of an interesting one. Land creature, Dryad Arbor, 3 forests, 2 Nurturing Peatland, 2 Overgrown Tomb, a single Swamp, Twilight Mire, 4 Verdant, 2 Windswept Heath, and a single Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth. So this is kind of the boring portion. Lists have kind of been bouncing back and forth between 3 Blooming Marsh and 2 Forest, and 3 Forest and 2 Blooming Marsh. I kind of like the way this played tonight. There's many times where you get the Blooming Marsh as your 4th land, and you're kind of just stuck on it. One of the most probably best lands that are in the deck is Dryad Arbor, because it can feed into your combo off of a fetch land. So I do think Dryad Arbor is probably one of the best just singleton lands in the deck.
Don't forget Boseiju.
Oh yeah, we need to discuss Boseiju. So Boseiju can break up any type of hate that you may face in the deck. Since it's a graveyard deck, a lot of decks do play enchantment, graveyard hate, artifact hate. It's also just good regularly against decks like Dale's, where he's running things like treasures. You can break up the combo at instant speed for 2 mana. Pretty much just all around, it works as a great card, especially when you're facing down like a main deck Blood Moon or anything like that.
That's honestly the reason I like the extra basic over the 3rd Marsh too.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I really like the way this played. I did not come across any Blood Moons tonight. However, I have been in a pickle where the extra forest would have mattered instead of a Blooming Marsh. So now that we've gone over the lands, we can go over to sideboard. Sideboard is pretty standard right now. Since we had the release of Mother of Machines, as mentioned earlier, I have 2 extra endurance, a fatal push, 3 Force of Vigors, which Force of Vigor is probably one of the best cards in the sideboard. So as long as it's my opponent's turn, I can cast it for free as long as I have another green card. This can break up, once again, Blood Moon, any of the graveyard hate, because most matchups you've come across in games 2 and 3 do have some type of graveyard interaction to go along with this. This card is also really good against Leyline Binding, which is a card that is problematic against this deck. It just is a 1 mana break up your combo.
Do green lands count as a green card or no?
No, the only one in the deck that does is Dryad Arbor, which is why Dryad Arbor is actually, once again, probably one of the best lands in the deck.
That's kind of sick. So if you have too many lands with this, you could get rid of that as your cost instead of one of your actual cards?
Just Dryad Arbor. He's the only one that I can pitch to it.
Yeah, I think I like 3 too. 3 is just so good. There's so many Saga decks, and Force is insane against Saga.
Yeah, Saga just basically just doesn't matter against this matchup.
Yeah, your opponent's like Saga, Amulet, Go, and you're just like,
End turn. Blow that up, please.
Yeah.
Thank you and have a great day. Thanks for coming to the matchup. I play a single Go for the Throat. I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between this and another Fatal Push. I do think this card's really good, though, against decks like Murktide, things like Creativity, being able to just kill the Archon. Overall, I think the Go for the Throat probably does have to stay and does play a vital role in the deck. I do have a Singleton Haywire Might. Once again, the Singletons kind of play a part because you can tutor them at instant speed with Quarter Calling. This card, once again, just another hate piece against Leyline Binding, Blood Moon, Artifact, based graveyard hate. Then we got a Singleton Scavenging Ooze, which deals with more of the graveyard decks, so it comes in against the Mirror, Jund Creativity, Living End, things like that.
And all the creatures you side are like super searchable in your deck, right?
Correct.
So it's like playing one of this, you're really playing like 8? Or whatever the number was.
6.
6?
Yeah, 7. You're theoretically playing 7 of these.
7 when you want it, and 1 when you don't. So, that's insane.
Yeah, that's the best part about this deck is while it is a combo deck, it also does function as a mid-range beatdown deck. So,
Depending on the matchup, you could gear towards whatever way you want to play.
Precisely. And then here's one of my favorite cards in the deck is Shieldra the Apocalypse. It has Death Touch. Whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life. Whenever opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life.
So this works with your combo too, right?
Correct. So this actually nets me a life every time that I go for the combo. So this is another card that if it's on the battlefield, I can draw through my whole deck. It's a 4/5, which is also really good at blocking. Comes in against decks like Burn, any deck. It actually comes in the Mirror.
I was going to ask that. This seems really good in the Mirror because, it puts you up 1 life and you do it. It puts them down a life when they do it.
Correct.
Yeah, it's like when they activate, they lose 3.
Yeah, they actually get bolted every time they act. Every time. Here's a new card from Brothers War. It's the Filgray Silex. This mainly comes in against the control matchup. Games that just are going to go a long time. You can just tap it, put an oil counter on it. Yawgmoth actually has a second ability that not many people use. However, it does come up a lot, which is pay 2 black, discard a card, proliferate. So you could just add another counter to this at instant speed as long as you have a card in hand and 2 black mana with a Yawgmoth. So you can deal 10 damage pretty quickly as long as you have the needs for it. And then we have 3 Thoughtseize, which this card obviously has been around in Modern forever. Just being able to pick apart the hate pieces on turn 1 is a huge deal. Losing 2 life really isn't that big of a deal. Life is a resource in this game.
Especially in the early game with it being a 1-drop. 18 life? Cool.
Exactly. So this deck can afford to play it. I'm a big fan of Thoughtseize. I can't remember a time where I've not played a Thoughtseize.
The artwork on this looks insane, too.
Yeah,
it is beautiful.
Junji Ito, dude.
Yeah, this
Well, that's that anime dude, right?
sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That secret lair is insane.
And then we have another Secret Lair and a Singleton of Veil of Summer. Once again, comes in against the control deck, comes in against any type of scam, anything like that. So just basically just trying to take out anything that can break up my combo at instant speed or have me discard it.
That's the end of your side deck, right?
Yep.
What
sure
cards are you typically taking out of the main deck when you're siding? Do you have like a certain side deck patterns that are consistent?
So typically it's like 1 or 2 grist. You sometimes actually pull out 1 or 2 cards of the combo just because, like I said earlier, a lot of hate pieces come in. So you'll typically end up taking out like 1 or 2 Strangleroot Geist, a Wolf. This is typically the start of what you take out whenever you're bringing things in and out.
And does it change whether you're going first or second?
Yeah, so if I'm going first, it's typically something like this. But if I'm going second, it typically is 2 Wolf, 1 Strangleroot Geist. So,
do you have any final thoughts or anything?
I just want to thank Control for Days for pretty much posting free content constantly. Really helped me become a better Yawgmoth player. And if you're looking to play Yawgmoth, I highly recommend checking him out as well.
All right, sick. Thank you for the profile.
No problem. Thank you.